What's up, guys? Blake Snodgrass here. Thanks for tuning in. In this video, which I will cut to here in just a second, I interview Jacob, who is one of our longest standing members of Agency Collective. He's been in our community for about a year now, and I ask him questions about his journey, some lessons he's learned along the way, how he's grown his agency from ground zero, technically 2K per month. When I met him, he had like one or two clients, to this month where he will have his first $100,000 month. And it's only been about a year. He scaled from zero to like 60, 70K per month in about 7, 8 months. And now a few months after that, he's hitting his first 100K month. It's ridiculous. And so I talked to him about what strategies he's implemented, what he's worked on with us to help him put systems in place that will help his company grow, from what order he put people in his business, whether that be like a media buyer or fulfillment or account management or a closer, to like what some of his strategies were for advertising and marketing and client acquisition. Okay. So I think if you are someone who is stuck with either not getting enough clients for your agency, not being able to convert opportunity, or you're stuck in fulfillment and account management and you're like struggling to just like get out of a rut and really start scaling for the first time, I think this interview will be really, really helpful for you. Having said that, we'll cut right to it. Again, this is Jacob, one of our Agency Collective members. And by the way, if you're someone who is stuck with one of those three things I just mentioned, client acquisition, sales conversion, or fulfillment, etc., feel free to click the link in the description, book a call with our team. We'd be happy to do a free consultation with you and try to, we'll basically give you a 6 or 12-month game plan on exactly how you can get from where you are now to double, triple, quadruple your current revenue. Having said that, here's the video. Yeah, dude, let's just dive right in, man. Thanks again for hopping on with me. You got the Agency Collective shirt, so like brownie points again, like you were saying earlier. Love it, dude. Let's make this really short and sweet. I just wanted to kind of hear firsthand from you, really like your story. Like, what has it been like? What has your experience been with Agency Collective? Maybe you could tell us kind of your story about like where your agency was at before you and I started working together, and what has happened since then, just like in a bird's eye view, man.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, the two biggest things changed my mindset and have made a ton of money for sure. Like I
Good.
was at 20, I think it was actually $2,400 a month when I started last August. And we did a little over 80K last month, and we should do over 100 this month. So
Wait,
definitely a huge,
will this be your first six-figure month?
yeah, if we hit it, this will be the first.
Dude,
And
that's killer,
we're on
man.
track because we're knocking on the door of 50 right now for the halfway through the month.
Dude, from 2K a month to 100K a month in, it's been like a little over a year now, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
13 months, 14 months.
year and 2 months, yeah.
Yeah. Dude, that's incredible, man. So you said
But I didn't
mindset
think it
and
was possible at all, and I had no idea what white labeling was or how to do it.
yeah,
I didn't have a background in SEO, which that was, SEO is one of those things that really helped my ticket prices go up and
yeah.
lifetime value go up and stuff. And so figuring out that I could do that and how to do that, I think had a huge impact on it as well.
For sure.
And then
Yeah, you
just the
didn't,
constant support.
yeah, you weren't already selling SEO and you didn't know how to sell it, but we kind of consulted with you and got you to buy into the notion of like, hey, if you can add SEO onto your services, SEO is such an amazing agency service because it has built-in retention. It's high ticket lifetime value. And so like that was big for you. Man, I want to backtrack to something you just said a second ago about you essentially said like I didn't believe it was possible. Like I imagine whenever you just had like one or two clients a month doing 2K a month, you probably didn't think it was possible to go from zero to 100K a month in like a year, right? Like how has your mindset morphed over time? Has like every month been kind of like just every month your mindset has expanded as to what's possible as you see like new strategies for growth and what you've experienced and everything?
100%. Yeah, and I never even thought about the idea of like having, a team and systems and processes. And like now that I've gotten to this point, it feels like honestly, it's just kind of the tip of the iceberg, because I feel
Yeah.
like you're just kind of at that point where now you can really start building a team. And then you think about the idea of a team could 10x, where you're at now
Yep.
pretty easily. And then like the way my business was set up before, there's no way if I ever wanted to try to sell or whatever, it would even be possible, which I'm not looking at that right now, but I want to always have that option, so I want to do
Yep.
it right.
Yep. You got to build it in a certain way. It has to be a self-sustaining system, self-sustaining business if you want to have an exit in the future, as I have with my agency and as several others in Agency Collective have. That's awesome, dude. Yeah, man, you get to the point to where like you build out a team. No. You build out a system to get clients and you're mainly focused on client acquisition. And now you get to the point to where you're like, okay, now my attention needs to shift from client acquisition to talent acquisition, right? It's like the client acquisition machine is built. And I actually want to ask you about that before we hop off. But now we're shifting towards talent acquisition. If I can get the right media buyer, the right salesperson, and then sales manager, and then account manager, and then potentially GM to manage that whole flow. Like if I can get that team in place, well, then we can sustain this growth, right? Anyways, man, one of the last topics we can talk about, I know I said I was going to keep this short. Like, what has been your go-to client acquisition strategy? What has allowed you to scale so quickly? I imagine when people hear like this dude went from 2K a month to 100K per month, how? Like, how are you getting clients?
Yeah, so one of the big factors was working with you and the group on honing in the Facebook strategy. So
Mm-hmm.
a few things I switched from a branded page to non-branded page.
Okay.
I switched to actually having an offer that was end result, not like, hey, I'll do digital marketing for you.
Yep.
And then having a full funnel, right?
Yep.
But for us, Facebook has been really the killer one. And then the lead enforced targeting, that was a huge, huge change versus before. Once you niche down, actually using that lookalike audience to target your actual people rather than
Yep.
just a bunch of random people. That really helped. We've
Cool.
always gotten consistent leads from Google, but
Okay.
because of our
Google.
niche, it doesn't really get searched a lot. Like we maybe get 2 to 3 leads a week from Google versus Facebook. We can get 10 to 20 leads a day.
It's just a search volume thing because you're in a very specific niche, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what I heard, I'm taking notes, is the non-branded strategy. So for anyone who's watching, one thing we talk about in Agency Collective is like instead of marketing from your agency's brand or your agency's page, come up with like a pseudo brand just for your campaign that is branded towards a certain niche. So instead of like advertising as Dave's marketing agency, if you're in like the roofing niche, you market as like, roofing profits, whatever, like something that doesn't look like a overt agency trying to sell you something, right?
Yeah.
And then in addition to that, you also mentioned not selling digital marketing. So not like having an ad that's like, hey, we do SEO, we do Google ads, we do marketing. Instead, you're like, hey, we'll help you grow your business and help you get X types of jobs, right? XYZ types of jobs, right?
Yeah.
Selling the actual end result, not leads. So many digital marketers think that everyone just wants leads. No, they want like jobs. Furthermore than that, they want increased revenue so they can remove themselves, so they can spend more time with family. Like there's so much more they want besides just leads, right? And then you
Right.
also mentioned messaging. You mentioned software targeting, which of course we've talked about a lot. And then you tried Google, but it's a bit capped by search volume, right? Do you
Yeah.
know? I would love to ask before we hop off about like cost per acquisition. I know in the beginning it took you $2,000 to crack the code of like landing clients from paid ads. And then you had this outrageous month where I still remember this because we did like a call about it. You spent like $1,400 and landed 10 clients. And I was
Mhm.
like, holy shit, like this guy is going insane mode now. Would you mind sharing like rough cost per acquisition right now, as I'm sure things have kind of leveled out over time and now you have a ton of data around that?
Yes. So for 2023, our average is about 650.
Too. That's
Um,
awesome.
Now we had some lower months, had some higher months, of
Yeah.
course. Now since this new campaign just launched, I don't know for sure. I think it's going to go down a little bit, just because
Yeah,
our cost per lead went way down. But we'll
sure.
see kind of the close rate with this new offer. But yeah, about 650 is the average for the year, and on average, this number keeps going up because we've really been adding back end value. But on average, we're keeping clients 6 months plus. Um,
Awesome, dude. Man,
so
that's really
that
good. The lifetime value is good then. And you
for
think about
sure.
that, like that's the beauty of the agency model is like your cost per acquisition can be 650 while your lifetime value can be 20, 30, 40 grand if you hold a client for 6 to 12 months or whatever, even longer, right?
Yeah.
I kind of have two more questions. I want to know like kind of the order in which you put people in place. And then I want to ask a very generic question of like, hey, if you started over, like what questions did you have that you feel like other people might have if they're getting started? So, anyways, how did you like in what order did you put people in place in regards to I know right now you have closer, you have an appointment setter, but those weren't the first things to put in place. There were other pillars you put in place first. So can you kind of tell me about that? You got started, you were doing all the fulfillment yourself and everything. You started to grow, and then what did you put in place and in what order to make that happen?
Yeah, fulfillment was first. And I'll be honest, I've always struggled through every step, letting go of more and more.
Sure.
But I never knew SEO. So I 100% outsourced SEO right away. And then I sent Google ads with that right away. Um, and I was doing my own ads. And so then when I basically couldn't handle the leads and the sales calls, I jumped to get the setter. And then the setter I bought my time back there big time because I was, taking 10 to 12 calls a day. And
Yeah.
so then he was taking those calls and then some, and he was talking to leads too. And so then he would get me booked with 7 to 8 sales calls a day, which then, I couldn't focus on running the business. So that justified the closer. And so then, then sales was off my plate. And I just increasingly did more fulfillment. Then I hired an account manager, which really helped just with the day to day talking to
Yeah.
clients, onboarding, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And we're actually looking at the current account manager is going to become, like you said, more like the GM now. And then
Okay.
we're going to hire another one. And then I hired a reporting slash onboarding person, which I guess you
Okay.
could kind of call that like a account manager. They
Yeah, sure.
make sure that, clients are getting leads daily and keep track of that so that we can just send reports out at the end of the month. And then they're doing onboarding and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
then media buying is the most recent thing I've outsourced.
Cool. Awesome. It's cool to watch you go through your journey. And I'm thinking back to like when I was in that revenue range for my agency and growing, like I was putting in the same people like that you're putting in right now. So like you mentioned, like having kind of like an onboarding coordinator or transaction coordinator. Like I was doing the same thing at about your revenue level, right? Where it's like, okay, we have client acquisition in place, we have leads and appointments coming in, I have a sales team, the deals are getting closed, we have an account manager, we have fulfillment in place, all that. And you realize like after you get really good at client acquisition and fulfillment, that there's like this silent but deadly bottleneck that happens where it's like, well, we need to get really good and streamlined and smooth at onboarding. Client
Yeah.
acquisition's good, fulfillment's good, but like there's that gap in between, right? And that can be like a killer because you and I both know the lifetime value of your clients is going to be very dependent on how the client feels in that first 30 days, you
Yeah.
know? So it's cool to see you going through that. Anyways, bro, I'll let you go, but like if we have obviously we're doing this testimonial video so you can give feedback about your experience and so other people who might be interested in partnering with us Agency Collective could see like kind of an inside scoop of what your experience has been and everything. So for that crowd, like what advice would you give the majority of Agency Collective prospective clients that we talk to are agency owners who are stuck with either the constraint of client acquisition or converting opportunities, so like sales, or like removing themselves from fulfillment and account management. And you pretty much know that. But for that crowd, what advice would you give them? I know it's a very broad question, but yeah, man, what advice would you give them?
Definitely um think think longer term. Don't think like, what can I do next month, but think like, how can I make this better a year from now?
Yeah.
bare minimum, or farther out. But then also just I would say try to get anything off of your plate as fast as possible. Like I think that's been one of my biggest negative things is that I just keep waiting too long until I have to get something off my plate.
Yep.
And then my time is just so taken up. And so then I'm not only focusing on what I'm doing and trying to get off my plate, I'm just not necessarily focused on that future growth. And then every time I actually do that, then we see massive growth in the agency. So I would
Yep.
say just don't hesitate on getting something off your plate as soon as you can.
Yeah, that's good. And under the hood, what you're saying is like be willing to sacrifice profit in the short term to put people in place to help you grow faster in the long term, right? I remember
Yeah.
when we started working together, I don't know if you remember this, but we were talking about like getting fulfillment off your plate and you partnering up with like a good contractor and stuff. And I believe I told you, like, dude, you just need to, from client number one, from the very next client you land, use a white label contractor and just know automatically that 25 or 30% of that revenue is going to go towards a white labeler. And in your mind, at 2K a month, you're like, oh, but I want that profit. But in order to grow quickly, you have to get that type of stuff off your plate, which means sacrificing profit in the short term to grow in the long term. And now you're doing that at a bigger level, hiring a big boy media buyer contractor and hiring, staff and all this stuff, which in theory, or not in theory, but in reality reduces your profit now, but so you can grow quicker in the long term and even increase profit, right? So that's
Yes.
great advice. Think long term, think on a longer time horizon. I couldn't agree more. That's good advice for me in my business as well. That's awesome, man. Well, dude, I really appreciate your time. I know we've done this at least one other time, maybe two other times, and I appreciate your feedback every single time, bro. And it's just been awesome to watch you grow. And now you're at the point where I'm learning stuff from you, and it's just like, dude, it's incredible. It's been very fulfilling to watch your journey, man.
I love it. And I'm super appreciative of not only you, but the community that you've built that's what I tell anybody who ever asks is like, in my opinion, the community alone is worth it, not ignoring all of the training and
Sure.
able to talk to you, but both of those things have so much value separately and then together. It's just amazing.
Yeah. If I may say so myself, our community has definitely morphed into something that's bigger than me or bigger than any of us. It's a really cool family we got going on. So
Oh
anyways,
yeah.
bro, I'll let you go. Have an awesome day. Thank you so much for the feedback and yeah, man, appreciate it. Talk soon.
Thank you. Talk to you
All right.
later.
Cool, man. Bye.